I didn't notice it at first. That's the part that keeps replaying. How obvious it must have been, and how late everything felt by the time it reached me. It started in their kitchen. Not even a moment. Just a routine. I used to stop by my friend's place almost every other day. Same time, same excuse. Group project, borrowed notes. Something that sounded real enough to not question. He was usually in his room, door half shut, headphones on, yelling at a game or someone online. So I'd end up in the kitchen. She was always there around that hour. Not waiting. Just there. Making tea. Rinsing something already clean. Standing by the window like she forgot why she walked there. "Hey," she'd say, without turning fully. I'd nod, even when she couldn't see it. "Hey." That was at most days. At first, I thought she was just polite in that distant, adult way. The kind that makes you feel like a guest, even if you've been coming over for years. But then she started remembering things. Not big things. Just small ones that shouldn't stick. "You don't take sugar, right?" I paused that day. I hadn't even said anything. She just placed the cup near me like it belonged there. "Yeah, I don't." She nodded once, like she was confirming something to herself, not to me. After that, it became a pattern. The same mug. The same spot on the counter. Sometimes she'd ask something halfway and stop in the middle. "You still?" Then shake her head lightly, like she'd changed her mind. Never mind. I didn't push. I'm not good at pushing. I'm better at noticing things and pretending I didn't. Like the way her fingers lingered on the edge of the cup before letting go. Or how she'd look at me when I wasn't supposed to catch it, then immediately look somewhere else. Usually the sink, even if there was nothing in it. It wasn't obvious. Not enough to name. Just enough to stay. At home, my phone stayed quiet most nights. Not completely silent. Just nothing that felt like it needed answering. A few messages typed out, then deleted. A name hovered over the send button, then gone. I got used to that feeling. Half-finished things. So maybe that's why I didn't question it when something started forming in those quiet kitchen minutes. It didn't feel like something new. It felt like another unfinished thing. One afternoon, it rained harder than expected. I got there soaked, shoes leaving marks across the floor. I stopped near the entrance, awkward, already thinking I should just leave. She looked at me for a second longer than usual. "You're dripping everywhere," she said, but her voice didn't match the words. "Yeah, I didn't think it'd get this bad." Obviously, there was a pause. Too long for that kind of sentence. Then she disappeared down the hallway and came back with a towel. Not a fresh one. Something worn, soft at the edges. She handed it to me without stepping too close. "Here." Our fingers almost touched. Almost. I wiped my hair slowly, more to have something to do than to actually dry off. She leaned back against the counter, arms loosely crossed, watching, not directly, but not looking away either. "You can wait till it stops," she said. "I don't mind." "I know." That stayed. I folded the towel after, even though it didn't need folding. Just kept pressing the edges together, fixing something that wasn't broken. She noticed. Of course she did. "You always do that," she asked quietly. "Do what?" "That." I looked down at my hands, then stopped. "Guess so." She nodded again. That same small, almost private nod. Like she was collecting pieces. Later that evening, when I finally left, the rain had slowed to a soft, steady sound. The kind that makes everything feel a little farther away than it is. I checked my phone out of habit. One new message. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. But something about the timing. I opened it. "You forgot something here." I stood there longer than I should have, staring at the screen, trying to remember what I could have possibly left behind. Then another message came in. "Or maybe you didn't." I didn't reply right away. Not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't know how to answer something that didn't ask a real question. "You forgot something here." I stood outside their gate longer than necessary, rain tapping lightly against my shoulders, phone still open in my hand. I almost typed "What did I forget?" then erased it. Instead, I went back the next day. Same time, same quiet. He wasn't home. His shoes were gone, his room empty, the house carrying that stillness it only had when it was just her. I hesitated at the kitchen entrance. She didn't. "You came back," she said, like she'd been expecting that exact thing. I nodded. "You said I forgot something." She glanced at the counter, then at me. A small pause. I did, but she didn't move to get it. I waited. She didn't fill the silence. Just reached for the kettle instead, like this was already decided. You want tea? She asked. I almost said no. Yeah, sure. Same mug. Same place on the counter. I watched her this time properly. The way she moved without rushing, like there was no one she needed to explain herself to. It felt different when it was just us. Not wrong. Just clearer. You don't have to keep coming here, you know, she said suddenly. Eyes still on the water as it started to heat. I know. But you do. I let out a small breath through my nose. Yeah. She didn't smile. Just nodded, like she understood something I hadn't said out loud. The kettle clicked. She poured the water slowly, steam rising between us, softening everything for a second. My son thinks you're here for him, she said, almost casually. I looked down at the counter. I am. She hummed lightly, not agreeing, not disagreeing. That's good, she said. It should stay that way. That landed somewhere I didn't want to look at too closely. I picked up the cup, more for something to hold than to drink. It was too hot. I held it anyway. There was a stretch of silence that didn't feel empty. You ever feel like you're just waiting for something? I said, before I could stop myself. She looked at me then. Not surprised. Just attentive. All the time, she said. I swallowed. For what? She leaned back slightly against the counter, thinking about it like it wasn't a simple answer. Something that makes everything else make sense, she said. Or at least quieter. I nodded, even though I wasn't sure I fully got it. Or maybe I did. At home, my phone still looked the same. Half-typed messages. Conversations that never really started. People who felt distant even when they replied. But here, it felt like something paused long enough to breathe. You didn't forget anything, I said after a while. She tilted her head slightly. No. I checked. A faint smile touched the corner of her mouth. Not amused. Just soft. I know. That should have been the moment I left. Instead, I stayed. She asked me to help her reach something from the top shelf. It was nothing. A jar, maybe. Something that didn't matter. I stepped closer, reaching above her shoulder. Not touching. Not quite. But close enough to notice the way she stilled for a second. Not pulling away. Not leaning in. Just there. When I handed it to her, our fingers brushed this time. Not by accident. Not fully on purpose either. Neither of us said anything. But she didn't move her hand right away. And for some reason, I didn't either. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. After that, things didn't go back to normal. They tried to. I tried to. But something had shifted, quietly, like furniture moved just enough to notice when you walk through a room in the dark. I started coming over less. Not on purpose. Just finding reasons not to. Assignments. Headaches. Messages I pretended to answer. But then I'd end up there anyway. Standing in the same kitchen. Same counter. Same space between us that didn't feel the same anymore. You've been busy, she said one afternoon, not looking at me. Yeah, just stuff. She nodded, wiping the same plate twice. It was already dry. Good, she said. It didn't sound like she meant it. I leaned against the counter, keeping a distance this time. Not too close. Not like before. She noticed. Of course she did. You don't have to stand all the way over there, she said lightly. I shrugged. I'm fine here. A small pause. Right. The kettle clicked. Neither of us moved right away. There was a rhythm before. Something unspoken, but steady. Now it felt off. Like we were both waiting for the other to either fix it or end it. Did you tell him? I asked, before I could think it through. Her hand stilled on the kettle handle. Tell who what? Your son. That I've been. I stopped. She turned slowly. That you've been what? I exhaled. Nothing. She watched me for a second longer than usual. Not curious. Not confused. Just careful. He doesn't notice things like that, she said. Like that. I nodded, even though I wasn't sure what that meant anymore. Later, he walked in. Loud. Normal. The way he always was. Bro, you've been ghosting, he said, dropping onto the couch like nothing had changed. I forced a small smile. Just busy. Yeah, right. He grabbed a drink from the fridge, walked past us without a second thought. Didn't see anything. Didn't feel anything. Or maybe he did, and I just couldn't tell. I glanced at her. She was already looking away. That night, I stayed longer than I should have. He went back to his room, door shut, headphones on, and somehow, I ended up in the kitchen again, alone with her. Same as before, but not the same. You should probably go home, she said quietly, not turning around this time. Yeah, I will. I didn't move. Neither did she. The clock ticked somewhere behind us. Too loud. You're making this harder, she said. I frowned slightly. I'm not doing anything. I know. That was the problem. I stepped closer before I could stop myself. Not all the way. Just enough. You said it should stay the same, I said. It should. But it's not. She turned then. Too fast. Or maybe I was just too close now. For a second, neither of us spoke. Her eyes flicked to my mouth. Then back up. That small movement. Barely anything. But it stayed. We're not. She started, then stopped. I waited. She didn't finish. My hand lifted slightly. Not reaching. Not yet. Just there. Her breath changed. Subtle. But I caught it. Don't, she said softly. But she didn't step back. Not immediately. I should have stopped. I know that now. But in that moment, everything felt suspended. Quiet. Like something waiting to happen if neither of us moved too fast. I leaned in just a little. Not enough to touch. Close enough to feel it. And for a second, she didn't move at all. After that night, I stopped going over completely. Not gradually. Just stopped. No messages. No excuses. Nothing that could be answered. At first, it felt like control. Like I had finally stepped back before something actually happened. But then the silence stretched. Days turned into something heavier. Not empty. Just full of things I wasn't dealing with. I'd pick up my phone, open her message thread, then lock the screen again. No new messages. Not from her. Not from anyone, really. A week later, my friend texted. You alive? I stared at it longer than I should have. Then, come by. Mom made too much food again. I almost didn't go. But I did. Of course I did. It was early evening this time. Not our usual hour. The house felt different. Lights on in places that were usually dim. The TV murmuring in the background. He was there for a while. Talking. Complaining. Normal. Too normal. I nodded in the right places. Laughed when expected. But my eyes kept drifting. To the hallway. To the kitchen. To the space where she usually was. She's outside, he said suddenly, not looking at me. I froze. What? In the back. Said she needed air or something. I nodded. Too quickly. Yeah. He didn't question it. Why would he? The backyard was quiet. Cooler than inside. The air had that stillness that comes right before night settles in completely. She was sitting on the low bench near the wall. Not doing anything. Just sitting. I stopped a few steps away. Hey. She didn't turn right away. Hey, she said after a second. Her voice was softer than I remembered. Or maybe I just hadn't heard it in a while. You disappeared, she added. Not accusing. Just stating it. Yeah. A pause. I thought that was better. For who? I didn't answer. She shifted slightly, making space beside her without looking at me. I hesitated. Then sat down. Not too close. Not far enough. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. Just heavy. Like it had something in it. I kept thinking about what you said. I admitted. Which part? All of it. She let out a quiet breath. Not quite a laugh. That's not very specific. I know. Another pause. I didn't know what you wanted, I said, staring ahead. I didn't either. That caught me off guard. I turned slightly toward her. You didn't. She shook her head once, slow. I still don't. The honesty in that, it didn't make things clearer. It made them worse. I tried to act like it wasn't happening, she continued, voice steady but lower now. Like if I just kept things normal, she trailed off. I waited. She didn't finish. You're his friend, she said instead. There it was. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just there. I know. And she stopped again. This time longer. I watched her hands instead, resting in her lap. Fingers loosely intertwined, then slowly tightening. I shouldn't be sitting here like this, she said. But you are. She looked at me then. Really looked. Yeah, she said quietly. Yeah, I am. Something shifted in the space between us. Not new. Just finally acknowledged. I kept thinking. I said, my voice lower now. If I came back, if I saw you again, I stopped. She didn't ask me to finish. Didn't need to. What? she said anyway, barely above a whisper. I swallowed. If it would feel the same. And I shook my head slightly. No, I said. A beat. It feels worse. Her breath caught. Just slightly. But I heard it. Worse how? I looked at her now. Really looked. Like I don't want to leave this time. The words stayed between us. Heavy. Unavoidable. Her eyes didn't move away. Neither did mine. You should, she said. But it didn't sound like she believed it. I leaned in just a little. Not touching. Not yet. Close enough to feel the shift in her breathing again. Her hand moved. Just slightly. Like she was about to reach for something. Or stop something. I couldn't tell which. Do you want me to go? I asked. She didn't answer. Not with words. And somehow, that felt like the question that mattered. She didn't answer. Not then. Not after. She just stood up. Too quickly for it to feel natural. Too controlled for it to feel impulsive. I should go inside, she said, brushing her hands against her jeans like she was clearing something off them that wasn't visible. I nodded. Yeah. But neither of us moved right away. There was a second, just one, where it felt like she might say something else. She didn't. She walked past me instead, close enough for her shoulder to almost touch mine. Almost. I stayed on the bench longer than I should have, staring at nothing, replaying everything. The way she looked at me, the way she didn't answer. That almost. I didn't go back inside. I left through the side gate, quiet, like I hadn't been there at all. After that, she changed. Not slowly. Not subtly. Completely. She stopped being in the kitchen. Stopped being anywhere I could run into her without trying. If I came over, she was out. If I stayed longer, she stayed in her room. Doors closed. Lights off. It was clean. Careful. Intentional. My friend didn't notice. Or maybe he did, but not in a way that meant anything. She's been weird lately, he said once, scrolling through his phone. Probably talking to someone again. I glanced up. What? He shrugged. She does that. Gets distant when she's, you know. I don't, I said. Dating? He clarified, like it was obvious. Or thinking about it. That sat wrong. Not because it was surprising. Because it made everything else feel misplaced. Oh, I said. Yeah, he added. Last time was some guy from her office. Didn't last. I nodded slowly, like that explained something. Maybe it did. Or maybe it just gave me somewhere to put the feeling I didn't want to name. I stopped going after that. For real this time. No half reasons. No showing up anyway. Just stopped. Days passed. Then more. I kept expecting something. A message. A call. Anything. Nothing came. At night, I'd open our chat again. Scroll up. That last message. You forgot something here. It felt different now. Like it meant something else entirely. I typed once. Did I stared at it. Then erased it. Another night. Are you okay? Gone. Another. I didn't mean to make it. Deleted before I finished. It got easier, eventually. Not sending things. Like a habit you don't realize you've built until you stop trying to break it. One afternoon, I passed by their street without planning to. Just ended up there. My feet slowed down before I even noticed. The house looked the same. Nothing different. Curtains still. Gate slightly open. I stood across the road longer than I should have. Thinking about knocking. Not thinking about it. Just standing. Then I saw her. Through the window. Not clearly. Just enough. Sitting at the table. Phone in her hand. Still. Like she wasn't reading anything. Like she was waiting. I stepped forward. Stopped. Stepped back. My hand went to my pocket, pulling out my phone again. Opened the chat. Typed, I'm outside. I stared at the words. My thumb hovered. Then, I locked the screen. Put it back. Turned around. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused. Like life forgot to finish the sentence. I went back 2 days later. Not because I had something figured out. Just because not going felt worse. It was late afternoon. Quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't ask questions. I stood at the gate for a second, hand resting on the metal like I needed to check if it was real. Then I pushed it open. No message this time. No warning. The door wasn't locked. I knocked anyway. Once. Then waited. Footsteps. Slow. Measured. The door opened just enough for her to look through first, like she needed to be sure. When she saw me, she didn't look surprised. That was the first thing that got to me. You came back, she said. Not accusing. Not relieved. Just stating it. Yeah. A pause. Can I come in? She hesitated. Not long. Just enough to feel it. Then she stepped aside. The house felt the same. And not. Everything was where it should be. But there was a distance in it now. Like something had been moved and never put back properly. He's not here, she said, closing the door behind me. I know. Another pause. We ended up in the kitchen. Of course we did. Same counter. Same space. Different air. She didn't make tea this time. Didn't reach for anything. Just stood there, hands resting lightly against the edge of the counter like she needed something solid. You shouldn't be here, she said quietly. I know. But you are. Yeah. Silence. It stretched, but not in the same way as before. This one felt like it was waiting for something to break it. I went by the other day, I said. Her eyes lifted slightly. I know. That stopped me. You saw me. She nodded once. Through the window. And you didn't. I didn't know what I would say. That made two of us. I exhaled, looking down at my hands. Empty. Useless. I almost texted you. I know, she said again. I let out a small, confused breath. How would you? You always stop halfway, she said softly. I looked up. She wasn't guessing. She knew. I kept waiting for it, she added. Something unfinished. That's your thing. I almost smiled. Almost. I didn't know if you wanted me to come back, I said. She shook her head slightly. That's not the question. Then what is? She looked at me for a long second. Not searching. Not unsure. Just steady. Why did you? That landed harder than I expected. I didn't answer right away. Not because I didn't have one. Because saying it meant there was no going back to before. I didn't like who I was when I stayed away, I said finally. Her expression didn't change. But something in it softened. Neither did I, she admitted. The honesty in that didn't fix anything. It just made it real. You said I should go, I reminded her. I know. But you didn't want me to. She looked down then. Just for a second. Then back up. No, she said quietly. I didn't. There it was. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just there. Everything we hadn't said, sitting between us without hiding anymore. And that's the problem, she added. Yeah. We stood there, close enough now that the distance felt intentional. Fragile. If this keeps going, she started, then stopped. I waited. She didn't finish. Didn't need to. I nodded slightly. I know. You could lose him, she said. I know. I could lose, she trailed off. Everything else. She didn't say it. I understood anyway. A long silence followed. Not empty. Just full of what it would cost. I stepped closer. Slow this time. Giving her time to move away. She didn't. Not this time. I don't know what this is, I said. Neither do I. But I don't think it's nothing. She let out a small breath. Something between a sigh and a laugh. No, she said. It's not nothing. That was enough. Not clarity. Not a solution. Just enough. My hand lifted slightly. Paused. Then rested lightly against hers on the counter. She didn't pull away. Didn't hold on either. Just let it stay. For a moment. A quiet, fragile moment that didn't promise anything. Didn't fix anything. But didn't pretend it wasn't there either. She glanced at our hands, then back at me. A small, tired smile. Okay, she said softly. And somehow, that felt like the most honest thing we had. Things didn't fix themselves overnight. They didn't collapse either. They just shifted. Slowly. Carefully. Like both of us were learning how to exist in the same space without breaking everything around it. For a while, I stopped coming over when he was home. Not because we said it out loud. Just understood. If I came by, it was earlier. Or later. Small windows of time that didn't overlap with anything that could raise questions. It felt wrong sometimes. It also felt honest in a way I couldn't explain. We didn't talk about what this is. Not anymore. That question stayed where it was left, somewhere between the kitchen counter and that bench in the backyard. Instead, we built something quieter. Something that didn't need naming every 5 minutes to feel real. She started making tea again. Not every time. Just when I stayed long enough. Same mug. Same place on the counter. I stopped pretending I didn't notice. Still no sugar. She asked once, already knowing the answer. Still no sugar. A small smile. That was enough. Sometimes we didn't even talk much. Just stood there, doing nothing important. She'd rinse something already clean. I'd lean against the counter, watching the steam rise from the cup like it had somewhere to go. There were pauses, but they weren't heavy anymore. Just hours. One evening, we ended up outside again. Same bench. Cool air settling in, the kind that makes everything feel a little slower. "You keep coming back," she said. Not questioning this time. Just noticing. "Yeah. A beat. So do you?" She exhaled softly, looking ahead. "Yeah." We didn't say anything after that. Didn't need to. There were still lines we didn't cross. Still things we didn't say out loud. But the distance between us didn't feel like fear anymore. It felt like choice. Like we were both aware of what this could become, and deciding, quietly, how far to let it go without losing everything else. He still didn't notice. Or maybe he trusted us enough not to look too closely. I didn't ask. She didn't explain. Some things stayed untouched on purpose. Months passed like that. Not fast. Not slow. Just steady. My life outside of her didn't suddenly become full or perfect. There were still nights where my phone stayed quiet. Still half-typed messages that didn't get sent. But there was something different now. Something that didn't feel unfinished. One morning, I stopped by earlier than usual. Around 8:47. I don't know why I remember that time. Maybe because the house felt softer then. Less defined. She was already in the kitchen. Black coffee this time. No tea. "You're early," she said, glancing at the clock, then at me. "Yeah. I couldn't sleep." She nodded, sliding the cup toward me without asking. "Not tea. Coffee." I took it anyway. "Still no sugar?" she asked. I looked at her, then down at the cup, then back at her. "Maybe just a little," I said. Something in her expression shifted. Not surprise. Not amusement. Just recognition. She reached for the sugar without saying anything, adding it slowly, like it mattered more than it should. I watched her hands. She noticed. Of course she did. "Better?" she asked, handing it back. I took a sip. Paused. "Yeah," I said. A small silence followed. Not empty. Not heavy. Just settled. She leaned back against the counter, arms loosely crossed, looking at me the way she used to. Only now, she didn't look away. And I didn't pretend not to notice. We didn't say what this was. We didn't promise anything. But we stayed. And somehow, that felt like enough. Did this story stay with you? What kind of quiet, real love stories do you want to hear next?